Alright guys, got some better lighting in here tonight. At least we can see what we're doing. Okay, so I just want to go over a few things. We're making some progress. We're going to get that, that other intercooler I was talking about, that other heat exchanger. Just in case you didn't see it if you're new. We're going to get this guy. It looks bigger in there. Looks pretty big, but it's only about a foot high, a foot wide, maybe a little bit big, maybe 13 by 13, 12 by 12, 3/4 inch in and outs. Got a cap. I might cut that off and seal it because it's not going to be needed. It's going to be higher than the lower sports machine, so the fluid still drain. I believe these intercoolers are actually upgrades for Camaro Super Sports. Not Camaro Super Sports, Camaro ZL1s. I think they're actually upgrades. They make one that's double this size. It's twice as wide. But of course that won't go in here. So they might be upgrades for those type of cars. Anyway, got the transmission cooler drip drying outside. I shot some carb cleaner through it, cleaned it out, just so it doesn't make a mess in here when we start moving it around. So basically it was mounted on the passenger side, in front of the radiator, the tranny cooler, and we're going to be putting it behind this oven grill, which is actually I'm not sure if that's the power steering pump or if that's the engine oil cooler. I know they have, I believe it's the power steering pump cooler. But anyway, we're going to be putting it behind there and remounting, and that's it. And then we're going to leave room here for the secondary heat exchanger. So anyway, the reason for doing this is I want to explain it a little bit better, because there's some people that think that this is not necessary, and they could be right. I'm not going to go to an electric fan setup right now, only because I don't think it's required for the modifications I have. I just don't think it's required, and plus I'm going to lose this top shelf of the fan shroud that holds the intake pipe, and I want to retain the intake pipe. Again, I want this truck to be as stock appearing as possible, and stock functional. Even though there's all these upgrades, there's still like stock factory better upgrades, that's all. So that's why we're not doing that. So the clutch fan, whether it's engaged or not, as you guys know, is always moving. So when it engages, of course, it pulls a lot of air through. So, and when's it going to engage? It's going to engage at slower speeds, at idle, at stoplights, and stuff like that, when it gets hot enough. So that's the whole point of putting this secondary cooler on the front. The bottom one, well, I'll get into the bottom one more, but the bottom one has been tricked out with two fans. They're actually ATV Grizzly. I think they use them on the Grizzlies and stuff like that, the ATVs. They're 2.7, they're not 8-inch, I would say they're about 7-inch fans. Waterproof, very well built. And they're running off an Interceptor, an Aeroforce Interceptor gauge that reads the coolant in and out of that intercooler. That sports machine's lower, and also has a relay set up, and the gauge can set off the relay based on what you set it for the temperature of the in or out, whatever one you want, off one of the sensors to trip on those two gauges. So when I come to a stoplight or something like that, or slower in traffic, I set the temperature, which is usually, you don't want it coming on all the time, but I would say usually around 115 degrees I had it set for, maybe as low as 110. The fans will come on, and it cools it down. It works. But it's kind of a little, it's not a crude way of doing it. It's the best way that you can do this type of stuff. But I think a more natural way, I know that might sound funny, but a more natural way is that sports machine's lower is doing all its work while the car's in motion. It's enclosed down there. It's got the deflector, the scoop, And I even got another scoop too. We'll get into that too. I got even this boxed in thing that this guy makes on the Cyclone Typhoon boards. It's a tricked out piece. I think what it does is it just traps the air better to go through the core rather than just a scoop. It boxes the air in to force it through more of the cores. At least I think that's the idea of it. So that intercooler pretty much works only when the car's in motion or when those two fans kick on. But I feel we needed something more, and something more is by adding this secondary intercooler to the front. It'll also cool down while the truck is in motion. Now you're gonna have twice the surface area, because that's a pretty decent size cooler. So you're gonna have twice the surface area, definitely. I mean, if you cut this thing in half, it's 6 inches and 6 inches, and you lay it put one on top of the other, but basically cut this down the middle, put the one on top of the other. You should have exactly the same size as the sports machine lower, even though it's not a double pass and it's pretty thick. It's about 2 inches thick. So I think that's about double the core. So you're gonna have twice the efficiency there. But now at a stoplight and everything else, the fan's got some suction behind it, pulling nice cool air through it. So to me, I think it's going to be pretty much the most efficient way you can go without putting the bigger one throughout the whole front of the radiator, because you do need a tranny cooler. Now I could have went with one of those tranny coolers that are like longer. It's like a single pass, and it's just long. They're like 2 feet long. I could have did one of those, like a frame rail one, or they have these little B and M ones that are small. But I like the old traditional. I don't know if you've seen that tranny cooler. It's outside, like I said, drip drying. I like the old traditional transmission coolers. It's a Durrell, and I like the Durrells. They work very well to me. I've used other brands, but I like them. I got all Durrell parts. I only use Durrell parts to, it's an extender kit to mount it and extend the lines over there, a little further. So I bought 2 kits just so I have enough. I don't think the one hose is gonna, if I cut it in half, I don't think it's gonna make the top and the bottom. But anyway, I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work out good. I'm making some progress, like I said. I'm gonna move the tranny cooler tonight, and I'll be ready to mock up what I got to do to mount the secondary cooler to this radiator frame support, because I'm gonna have to do something with the little feet on it. I'm gonna have to cut them. I'm gonna have to flip them. There's gonna be some fabrication involved. Anyway, guys, that's it. Another episode of Tweak and Tune. Bang out of here.